Yes,
and of course, during the generations, were touched, because a child of 5 years, of course, then understood what why was all about.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I mean, will actually reprimand you, of course, if he sees you doing anything against what the why says.
Yeah, that's why. I'm actually talking about the years before why. I mean, when we were in elementary school, it was hygiene. Hygiene was a topic, was a subject. You were taught all kinds of things that you needed to do with your environment, and more particularly, the health and sanitary inspectors went from place to place, just to be sure that the environment was clean. And if your environment wasn't clean, there were sanctions that were usually.
Then they were like tax collectors. If you know that they're coming, you have to keep your environment clean.
Absolutely, Kiri. And so that's precisely what people are yearning for, because the plenitude of rats in our environment often would bespeak the fact that the environment is not clean.
Yeah, but one wonders whether this can actually, be achieved this time around. What should be the place and role of sanitation or sanitary and health inspectors against this backdrop? And how effective can the culture of sanitation be for the greater good of the society? My name is Kirian Umayo. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo, joined by colleague Kirian to also welcome you to the program, and because of which we have our complimentary segments. And this includes business, newspaper review, and others. In the meantime, let's join Chimobi Water Energy for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Chimobi.
Hello, good morning, Kingsley and Kieran. It's good to see you this morning. And good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. Now, 3 more brand new helicopter gunships have been inducted into inventory of the Nigerian Air Force towards adding impetus to its combat efficiency and addressing the nation's contemporary challenges of security. President Muhammadu Buhari, who performed the ceremony at the Eagle Square, harped on the need for operational discipline and strong maintenance culture so that air power can be effectively and efficiently and, of course, timely employed in response to the security imperatives of the nation.
These additional platforms have contributed immensely to the Air Force's successes and decimation of Boko Haram insurgents. You will all agree with me that the successes we have achieved so far have restored our pride and honor the world over. Consequently, I want to sincerely thank Nigerians for believing in our government in spite of occasional outrages coming together as a nation, irrespective of political, religious, and ethnic affiliations in our strive to bring this menace to an end.
And away from security, critical micro and macroeconomic issues dominated discussions as President Muhammadu Buhari engaged members of the new Presidential Economic Advisory Council led by Professor Doyin Salami. The President once again gave firm assurance that his administration will be bound by the advice of the Committee on Matters relating to the nation's economy as he implements the next level agenda for a prosperous future.
Task. For Nigeria, international changes in oil prices, bad harvests, conflicts in strategic global locations, a global pandemic like we are experiencing now with coronavirus, tariff changes in major world economies, to mention only a few examples that readily came to mind, can significantly affect our own plans and fortunes.
And President Muhammadu Buhari will on Friday depart Abuja for Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to attend the 33rd ordinary session of heads of states and governments of the African Union. A statement by the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, says President Buhari will join leaders from the 55 member countries of the African Union to participate in the summit with the theme Silencing the Guns. creating conducive conditions for Africa's development. The President will also attend the 29th Forum of Heads of States and Government of Participating States of the African Peer Review Mechanisms and the 27th session of New Partnership for Africa's Development, Heads of States and Governments Orientation Committee. The statement adds that President Buhari will participate in the high-level meeting of the Peace and Security Council on the situation of the Sahel and Libya and high-level ad hoc committee on South Sudan on the margins of the summit. Garba Shehu says the President will deliver a keynote address at a high-level side event on Stop the War on Children, dividends of silencing the guns. At the end of the AU summit on February 10th, the Nigerian president will commence a state visit to Ethiopia on February 11th at the invitation of the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The visit is aimed at strengthening bilateral ties between Nigeria and Ethiopia and reinforcing cooperation in key areas of mutual interest between the two countries. The President will be accompanied by some state governors, ministers, members of the National Assembly, and some security chiefs. And now to the Senate, as it has passed the repeal and reenactment of the Fiscal Responsibility Act bill through second reading. The bill also seeks to provide for the establishment of a Fiscal Responsibility Commission and Council.
There are observed deficiencies that render implementation and enforcement of the provisions of the Act too administrative, especially without clear-cut punitive measures.
Fiscal Responsibility Act, taking cognizance of the fact that we want prudent management of our nation's resources, must begin to speak to some of these intendment.
People will now know that they are going to be put on the spot and they are going to be punished when they do not follow due process.
Ensure long-term macroeconomic stability of the national economy, secure greater accountability and transparency in fiscal operations within the medium-term fiscal policy framework.
Similarly, the House of Representatives has commended the federal government's Better Education Service Delivery for All program being implemented in some states of the Federation. The commendation came during a debate on a matter of public importance from the House Deputy Chief Whip in Kiruka Onyejocha.
The federal government interest in curbing the menace of out-of-school children, every state in Nigeria still has a sizable number of our out-of-school children roaming the streets.
And now to other stories. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has deregistered 74 political parties for non-performance during the 2019 general elections, bringing the number of parties in Nigeria to 18. The announcement was made by the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, in Abuja. A date has also been announced for the governorship elections in Ondo and Edo states.
1. Breach of any of the requirements for registration as a political party. 2. Failure to win at least 25% of the votes cast in one state of the Federation in a presidential election, or 25% of the votes cast in one local government area of a state in a governorship election. 74 political parties are hereby deregistered.
Let's now turn our attention to health matters, as discussions at the Commissioners of Health Forum sitting in Abuja have reiterated the imperatives for strict compliance and implementation of subsisting agreements with foreign agencies aimed at strengthening health facilities in the country. The health administrators are concerned over the quality of service delivery at primary and secondary health institutions across the country.
Meeting the commitments is a big step in the right direction, and I appeal to everybody to ensure full implementation of these commitments.
Is to build a health system that is functional and can be able to respond to the health needs of our people.
This is targeted to help strengthen the healthcare system with respect to primary healthcare under one roof.
And that concludes the news highlights for now. And Kingsley and Kieran will be back with Good Morning Nigeria just after the break. To stay with us.
This is Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for staying with us. Now let's go business. The federal government takes steps towards addressing irregularities in Nigeria's tax laws. These and more on Business News with Abdulkarim Zurumi.
Continuous education of taxpayers on the provisions of the new Finance Act has been highlighted as key to actualizing full implementation of the Act. The Finance Act, which seeks to address anomalies in Nigeria tax laws with improved awareness to generate the needed funds, is targeted at financing the infrastructural deficit in the country and the needed boost to the nation's economy. This was the position at a one-day workshop and training in Abuja.
If a company have thresholds of turnover of between 100 to 25 million, you are tax exempt. That means you don't pay corporate taxes. Of course, you can pay education taxes. You don't also pay VAT, and you don't also file VAT. But that does not exist in practice. But by the time the laws are there, and any company that stick to the law, of course, naturally, you mitigate your liability.
The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council has launched its fifth accelerator, tagged NAP 5.0, which aims at rapid implementation of reforms for improvements on the ease of doing business in Nigeria. Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, Special Advisor to the President on Ease of Doing Business and Secretary of PEBEC, stated how the program provides another window to further deepen and implement business climate reforms for SMEs in the country. Now let's head to the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange to see how the market fared on Thursday, 6th of February 2020. With business news, Abdulkarim Zurmi.
Thank you very much, Abdulkarim Zurmi, for the business package. Next on the program, there's a review of some of the papers we have this morning.
And Bayo Taebi is here with us already for newspaper review. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Kirian. Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, good to see you, Bayo.
Thank you.
Okay. Want me to start?
Yes, let me start with a Blueprint newspaper. The Blueprint newspaper. Of course, on the right-hand side of the nameplate, we have reps probe Nimasa's 6-year unaudited account. It's on page 33. 78-year-old man jailed 5 years for raping 2 minors. Page 5, we have the story. Directly under the nameplate, we have 2 striking stories there. Insecurity. 50,000 orphans without care will be worse than Boko Haram, says Sultan of Sokoto. That's on page 5. Economic Council raises concerns over slower growth population upsurge. Page 16 is where you have the details of that. And now the lead story on Blueprint newspaper this morning. That's of course Nigeria to the police. Extend Benungwari feet to Zamfara, Niger, Benue, and others with 5 riders. Want better equipment for security agency. Police foiled foreigners kidnapped in Niger. Ex-Minister Lautse effort cautions on innocent civilians. Show evidence. Shehu Sani tasks police. Don't politicize this issue, ex-lawmaker warned. All right, of course, the photo story on Blueprint is that of the helicopters commissioned yesterday by President Muhammadu Buhari. All right, and below that we have National Assembly, that's now Louds move as INEC sacks 74 political parties. With riders, electoral body retains 18. It declares September 19, October 10 for Edo, Ondo, Goba. Molds more polling units for 2023. INEC is right, says lawyer. It's contempt of court. ACPN says. That's on page 15. That's where you get details of this story. Now, Petard, ICPC partner on pension fraud. Page 34 has details of that. Now, Bilingwari police kill 2 wanted commanders, arrest 3 others. It's on page 5. Monarch to Buhari, reconcile Ganduje Sanusi to save our institution. It's also on page 5. And on page 7, we have Nigeria ranks highest in female genital mutilation globally. That's all.
Okay, let's take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper. Above the nameplate, external debt servicing gobs $1.08 billion in 9 months, and that's according to the Debt Management Office. Ministers and agencies working at cross purposes. That's attributed to the President's economic team. Foreign reserves dropped by $4.47 billion in 2019, according to the CBN. Sultan rubbishes Operation Shege Kafasa, and that's on page 12. Sultan rubbishes Operation Shege Kafasa, that's page 12. 2 earpieces there. NECO releases results, 52% failed to obtain 5 credits. Amoteco recruitment form out next week, says Akeredolu. Lead story of the Punch, 74 parties lose registration, set to battle INEC in court. Commission access Fawaimis, NCP, Okotie's FDP, Kowa Party, and 71 others. And then, of course, the governorship election for Edo is September 19th and Ondo October the 10th. And the story already read by Kirian. You also have it there, President Buhari inducting the new Augusta helicopters with a promise to re-equip the military. Plateau declares Friday public holiday and celebrates Forgiveness Day. That's page 12. Court fixes February 24th for Zakzaki's trial. President, 2 governors begin 5-day trip to Ethiopia. El-Rufai revokes Abacha Hotel's CFO, cites indebtedness. Benue strange disease kills 15. Senate expresses concern. North, now theater of violence, says ex-speaker Dogara.
Thank you, Kingsley. Well, the Sultan of Sokoto has warned that if security challenges that is ensuing are not contained, particularly a worse one is imminent. Alhaji Sir Abubakar retired, who was speaking at a northern security summit in Kaduna, revealed that there are over 50,000 children orphaned by Boko Haram, and if their case is not looked at, there could be a consequence worse than Boko Haram in no distant future. The Sultan also spoke about the northern group that has floated what they describe as Shege Kafasa. Shege Kafasa literally means bastard you have seized. He condemned the initiative and blamed the elite in the north for not doing enough to tackle the situation of poverty and violence in the north. He said, we are not short of solutions, but sadly, several recommendations that have been made are always dumped on the shelf. He recalled 2 instances where traditional rulers were summoned when the 7th governor was the chairman of the Northern Governors Forum. He said they profiled solutions and handed over to him. It never saw the light of day. On another occasion, they also summoned traditional rulers and presented solutions to tackle poverty and possible violence in the north, but nothing was done about it. He lamented that the recommendations of the traditional rulers for the governors were never implemented. He, however, said the initiative that is called Shege Kafasa is not encouraging. He, however, did not say whether they should fasa. Fasa means to seize. Shege Kafasa, with past that you have seized, but he didn't say whether they should cease to exist. President Muhammadu Buhari has promised to implement all advice provided by the Economic Advisory Council. He asserted so yesterday when he held a meeting with the council. The council used the opportunity to highlight what they identified as challenges in the economy. They identified the lower growth or growth as compared to population growth, and several other issues. The President gave instructions to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation to tackle what was identified, the lack of synergy between ministries, departments, and agencies. The President promised that he would want the meeting with the National Economic Council, originally planned for quarterly meeting, to be henceforth every 6 weeks. And he promised that whatever they recommend will be taken seriously. You recall in the past, advisors were told, you are free to advise, and the person advised is free to accept or reject. This president says he will accept and implement the advice. The other matter of concern, which Kingsley read about, is the deregistration of 74 political parties. The Independent National Electoral Commission announced this yesterday. This is sequel to the failure of those political parties to score the required and meet the requirement of Section 25A of the 1999 Constitution. So far now, we now have 18 registered parties. It is 18 because one political party has a case that is sub judice about deregistration. It may be also recalled that in the political parties, 39 of them were deregistered. At that time, it was based on the Electoral Act. The court ordered that they be reinstated. But this time around, still there are challenges, but it is based on the amendment in the 1999 Constitution. In another development, the INEC has also identified the dates for the next election for Edo and Ondo State. For Edo State is September 12, 2020, and for Ondo it is October 10, 2020.
Yeah, on the issue of
very quickly,
registration.
Before we come to that, the Edo election is for September 19th.
September
19th, and then Ondo is October 10.
Yes, Ondo, October 10, September 19th.
The slight concern I have with this is that Edo and Ondo are contiguous states. What is the challenge with holding the elections on the same
day? Yeah.
So you had in Kogi and Bayelsa.
Precise, and those are states that are far apart. So you, on the 19th of September, when you're going to have the election, INEC, as usual, will deploy 30-something thousand policemen and civil defense, and not even, we're talking about security. You mobilize 30-something thousand, and of course, there will still be incidents of violence and so on and so forth. That same, 2 or 3 weeks later, you will go to Ondo with an equal or even higher number of personnel. Why don't you conduct both elections at the same day? So whoever wants to foment trouble by seeking refuge in a nearby state from where they could then bust in the hotheads, probably will have a much smaller environment to operate.
Yeah, no doubt
as,
that
as convenient as that might be, it's perhaps predicated on the fact that the tenure of one is ending 12 November 2020 and the other is ending February 24, 2021. So that's
if you conduct an election same day, it does not affect. You can choose a different date for swearing in for both of them if you want to, of course, maintain a tenure expiration. So what Kingsley is saying is that, look, it's more economically sensible, not for us convenience, economically and do otherwise.
Yes, but also don't forget that 150 days before the expiration of the date and 30 days after. Those are the parameters.
Those are the parameters that they are using, but sometimes some of these things have to be taken into consideration. I mean, there's nothing that says that you couldn't do that. You will see what will happen. I mean, September is just around the corner.
I share your agreement, but don't forget that we are in a democratic setting. Some people can go to court and say that said the 2 dates it's violation.
As they are threatening to go to court now over the duration of 75.
Anybody can still go to court, even with the current arrangement. We've been expressing that over the years. I was talking about the deregistration of 74 political parties. My concern there is that there would have been no need ab initio to register most of the parties that were registered in the 2019 election. But of course, you saw the ballot paper, it looked like a child's play. You have almost a newspaper spread of ballot paper, accumulating over, like a wrapper, it looks so childish, honestly speaking, right? Because there should be criteria. If you don't meet it, you don't get registered. You don't just register because a couple of friends come together and hold a meeting and decide to, have a name of a party and move straight to INEC, right? And
can you save your breath? There are already 100 other associations waiting to be registered as political parties.
So it's now business.
Yeah, it is. But I share your concern. part of what we recognize is, okay, there was a time some persons said, look, you couldn't infringe on our associational rights as enshrined in the Constitution. So we have a right to form a political party. And then the Supreme Court said, yes, they have a right, to exist as political parties. You can't deregister them. And then the law responded, that's to say that by way of amendment to the Constitution, yes, which is Section 225A. Section 225A, as you very well know, the only way you can contest election in this country is to belong to a political party. Now, but that amendment also spelled out the conditions under which a party must continue to exist.
Exactly.
Yeah, and those conditions means, I mean, we talked about this a year ago when we were having the general elections, that, look, as you are going to the general elections now, governorship, House of Assembly, National Assembly, and the presidential, be sure that you are able to, make some mark. Either you win a seat in the House of Assembly. If any of the parties won a seat in the House of Assembly, they will still be in existence. If they won in the National Assembly, they will still be in existence. The only area of concern that I have, and I think INEC has also cleverly explained that, to say that the party failed also to win a ward or a chair in a local government election. Yes. So INEC now says, fine, the only local government election we conduct is in the FCT. We have conducted that. The litigation arising from all of these cases are virtually over, if not altogether over. These parties that we are talking about, and let's face it, I mean, what are you doing? Charade of 74.
This issue of being, I don't know, when we make laws, right? It's as if law is made for man or man for the law. I don't know how you people explain that. But my concern is that, look, you have a right to have an association, but it must not be a political association. There are associations existing. There are cultural ones. There are social ones. So why must it be political association that will now have a preponderance of parties that have no philosophy of any sort, parties that don't even have offices across the nation, and you now register them on paper as a political party that will now begin to make elections cumbersome, make elections so difficult to handle. Now you must have to wait for elections to come and go to determine the sustenance, what you can have to exist. But originally, you did not meet up the criteria to be registered in the first place.
If they didn't meet the criteria set, they would not have been registered. In fact, some of them even went to court. That is why you now have 18 political parties. Actually, INEC was identifying 17, but one is still in court challenging INEC about instances of deregistration. The latest on Lassa Fever.
We'll take the editorial.
The editorial, maybe you can chip that in. The editorial is on from Daily Sun newspaper for effective Okada Keke ban. Let me just take a paragraph here. The recent ban on commercial motorcycles and tricycles, that's Keke, by the Lagos State government took effect from February 1, 2020 in 15 council areas and development centers in Lagos. So it also affected 40 bridges and flyovers in the state. The ban, of government explained, is part of an extant traffic law which had been in existence since 2012. According to the Commissioner of Information, Mr. Bwenga Motosho, the restriction was to save life and property. He decried the rate of accidents involving commercial motorcycles and tricycles on roads across the state.
Yes, I want you to bring up the latest on Lassa Fever. The Honorable Minister for Health has indicated that there is a possibility of a vaccine for Lassa Fever on the horizon. And that is good, positive news. However, as at now, there have been about 258 cases and there have been about 41 deaths. Also on coronavirus, the doctor who first identified coronavirus, sadly, has died of coronavirus. She was the one that discovered the virus on December 30th. And apparently, the United States created the impression that China wanted to put it under cover. And so they saw him as a whistleblower. Now, talking about Okada ban in Lagos, what the editorial is saying that the law has been there for 8 years. And Lagos State has just woken up now to enforce the law, having realized that there have been 10,000 accidents and 600 deaths. But however, the editorial is saying that there were not alternatives provided by way of transportation before they phased out keke napep and motorcycles. They also add that the phasing out of these two elements is going to worsen the unemployment situation because of the challenges it poses. And the editorial, in its wisdom, is saying that something has to be done very rapidly to stem the crisis. Don't forget that at Yana Ikwaja 2 days ago, there was already riots, and there are people who have been demonstrating that they want their job back on the street.
Well, on the other side of the story, there's one lady, Cynthia, that went viral on the social media. She's a tricycle, rider, and she was so bold to say, look, that she makes a lot of money on a daily basis, about 20,000 on a daily basis, that if she has to get a job now, that she may not be paid up to 20,000 naira a month. And one foundation now saw that and bought her a car. It's the fallout of, and bought her a car. I presented it to her publicly.
All right. Yeah, I think this is a running story by the editorial as well. But the point to be noted is that Okada and Keke Napep have not been banned in all parts of Lagos.
Yes.
So if you have been banned from if you're restricted from operating in certain areas, then go to other areas where you are not restricted. Perhaps one issue that the Lagos State government didn't take care of was to get in touch with the unions, taxi operators and downfall operators, that's to say minibuses, not to raise their fares. I think that was one key mistake. I think they can still get back because
or provide more buses on the street.
Precisely. Well, they said they were going to do that for BRT.
In fact, they started a ferry service. They launched a ferry service, but after all, it is coming after the effect. And because already there's a congestion about movement there. And the ban is for 15 local government. It's covering 40 bridges and flyovers.
Yeah, all right. Bayo, thanks a lot. I'm sure you heard a joke about the new ferry services. Somebody was asking. Now, there are ferry services from Ojuelegba to Ikeja, for instance. The ferry is there, but where's the water along that coast? Okay, Bayo, thanks a lot for being around. We hope you enjoy your weekend and see you on Monday. It's Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break. Now, when we return, we'll be dealing with the issue of health challenges, especially our sanitation.
Now, with series of health challenges becoming prevalent in the country, how much can one say that Nigerians observe proper hygiene and sanitation? Let's now join our correspondent Oyeme Ajayi for the backgrounder on the topic, role of sanitation and health inspectors.
Health is wealth, they say, meaning a person with good health has it all. In many nations, especially the developed ones, hygiene and constant sanitation is paramount, with much priority towards maintaining a better and productive society. But sadly, such cannot be said about some others, including Nigeria. Sites like these are quite common in areas in the country. In time past, sanitation in the country was top priority, with active role played by sanitary inspectors. These officers saddled with the responsibility of ensuring proper environmental sanitation across the country. Their operations were visiting houses, at times unannounced, for inspection of environments, with fine and consequent punishment meted out to defaulters. For many then, it was more of the fear of sanitary inspectors is the beginning of wisdom, and this invariably gave room for decorum, leaving the people free from ailments and diseases. Environmental sanitation was a well-known exercise back then, with Nigerians engaging in early hours of cleaning the house, gutters, cutting of grasses where needed, and sweeping the environments. Sadly, the absence of all these has brought a big lacuna in the sanitation consciousness of the people, reflecting the prevalence and resurgence of some diseases and ailments which the country is still battling with now.
And the reason why Nigeria are not being cocksure, sometimes, poverty also affects when it comes to the nature of how people take care of themselves.
Try to sensitize people on how they should take care of their environment from their home, and when they get to society, they should also make sure that they treat society like their home.
So I think the basic factor there is sensitization. We need more sensitization in regards to our hygiene.
You have to take care of your house. When you go out like this and come back home, carry soap, wash your hand properly before you start eating or do any other thing.
What is the missing link between then and now, and how can that be corrected? Why are Nigerians less concerned about the hygiene and proper sanitation in their environments? What should the government do to ensure and enforce cleanliness and good hygiene in the neighborhood? These are some questions guests on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be answering shortly.
Joining us in the studio now to discuss these issues, I'd like to welcome Dr. Andy Uka. Dr. Andy Uka is Director, Registration, Ethics and Standards Enforcement of the Environmental Health Officers Registration Council. Pleasure to have you with us on the program. Also here with us in the studios is Dr. Yusuf Rigasa. Is a waste and sanitation expert. Dr. Rigasa, pleasure to have you around.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Kate Ocheze Ubuna will also be part of this conversation. Kate is the head of Department, Environmental Health and Safety, Abuja Environmental Board. We thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir, for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yes, while Dr. Ubinatu Alams Remigius is Head, Environmental and Occupational Health Division, Public Health Department, Health and Human Services Secretariat, Federal Capital Territory Administration. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Thank you, and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with a fairly obvious question by asking to get your opinions. What is the state of our environmental sanitation in Nigeria? Dr. Rigasa.
Yeah, I would like to start by saying that we used to approach it excellently before when sanitation was domesticated in the local government. But somehow, along the way, this mandate has been moved, especially at state level to states. And states, by their nature, they have so many things doing, and it's difficult for them, at least, to take the issue of inspections, house-to-house or door-to-door inspection, more seriously than local government. So in that part, we've not been able to do well. But when you talk about money, the money has been there, and money to me is not the primary challenge. It's just that we don't have the necessary, institutional structure or framework to be able to deliver excellent sanitary service to our citizens. So right now where we are is that we've been static for a long time. We've not been moving with the world. The world has progressed, but if you look at our sanitary habit and the quality of waste and sanitation services in our cities, it seems that we have stagnated, I think, for over 20 years.
Yeah, so there's lack of excellent structural framework,
yes,
to address that problem. So that brings us to the question of enforcement. We're still on the current situation. I'm coming to Dr. Andy Uka this time around. Yours is about enforcement. And of course, Abuja, for instance, like other cities across Nigeria, there are suburbans, like in Abuja we have Maraba, Karo, and the rest of them. What's the situation of the environment in those areas in Abuja?
Actually, I am under federal government, and fortunately, our office is located in the FCT. I want to say that what is happening in the FCT Abuja is also happening in every state of the country. The enforcement supposed to be very proper now, but unfortunately it's not, due to many factors. One of the factors is that the governments have ceased to give impetus to the work of environmental health, the work of keeping our environment clean and other things. Why? Like you say, since 20 years ago, some states have not officially employed environmental health officers. And thereby, in the few they have that are going into extinction, they are not being maintained, they are not being equipped. Rather, the states are creating what we call task forces. That task forces are supposed to be operational during the military regime is what we are also using now that we are in democratic reign. And remember that there's a difference between force and enforce. The force is that you want to coerce people, you want to force them to do
something, whether they like it or not, whether it is legally or not. But to enforce, follow a process, follow a legal or legal laws and other things. Like our work is to follow the process of law to enforce our work. For example, when you go to premises inspection, you discover nuisance, you need to issue what we call abatement notice, which is a legal tender that the people have to, depending on whether it is structural nuisance or not. So you give them time, tell them what to do, and come back to check if they have done it. If they refuse to do it, then you report them or take them to the court of law, where the process of prosecution should start. But those things are not being done now in many states. Rather, they use task force, and that task force force people to get money, to make money, because some states depend on that task force to get like maybe 200,000, 300,000 a day, because the money is coming by forcing people. Therefore, they think that that is the right thing. It's never the right thing. And those work that are supposed to be done are not done, because a task force is not trained, it's not a professional. And when they get there, they cannot remove the nuisances, because if they remove the nuisances, they cannot come next time to collect their taxes.
A good point that you have raised, Dr. Andiuka. Let's bring in Dr. Remigius Obinatu. Amongst the points that have come up are structural. I mean, Dr. Rigasa says we are seeing a situation where local governments are virtually not engaged in environmental sanitation, and they've been emasculated by the state governments, contrary to what you have provided for in the 4th schedule to the Constitution. And then, of course, he raises other points along with Dr. Uka. In your opinion, what is just wrong with our environmental cleanliness?
Okay, thank you. Let me start this way. First of all, the mandates are still not clear right now. Most times, it's not clear to the person in the local government which area of sanitation he should come in. It's not clear, even at the state level, between AEPB and FCT Public Health. It is still not clear who does what and who should actually monitor and supervise what. I think there is a need for either an inter-departmental ministerial committee that will actually delineate roles and responsibilities of the various arms of the government that contribute in environmental sanitation. I think what has happened over the years, just like you said, is that our attention has actually been diverted from issues of sanitation and health to issue of revenue generation. Because most local government, what are interested in is how much comes in from these enforcements. They're not actually interested in the actual work of environmental health officers, who are previously called sanitary inspectors or health inspectors. The actual responsibility is for them to actually inspect most premises and business areas, be able to identify nuisance, and be able to abet the nuisance. Also provide health education along the line for people to actually take corrective measures to avoid that. Now, but most local government areas, even in FCT, what they do is actually contract people to actually go collect money from people in the names of the various aspects of environmental sanitation. So I think what we need to do is to get the government, particularly in FCT, to sit the local government councils down, the AEPB, the FCT Public Health, and again, bring the Constitution, and it is clear who does what. What I know is that environmental health officers actually and ideally perform their functions under the medical officer of health, who is a medical doctor with at least a postgraduate degree appointed by the minister. Now, so he now assigns districts of the territory to specific environmental health officers, who now perform the function of routine inspection to be able to now ensure that the law as regards sanitation is adhered to. They inspect and then correct, and then those who are actually not abiding by the law are advised on what to do by serving abatement notice to the particular occupant of the premises where such nuisance have been identified. So in summary, what we need to do is to make it clear which agency of the government, which arm of the government does what in aspect of sanitation, and ensure it is strictly adhered to.
You see, what you have said is a clear indication that there is a lack of synergy, between institutions established to enforce environmental cleanliness, in the country. And if responsibilities are not delineated to ensure that, look, you know exactly what you have to do, then this problem may continue. And let's get to Kate Ucheze Obuna. Kate, what's your assessment of the current environmental health situation in the country?
Thank you, sir. I would say that the environmental sanitation issue in the country, we've not reached the peak where we're supposed to be. I will not blame only maybe the fact that maybe we don't have a clear cut of what individual, maybe state, area council or others should do. I also look at the society where we are in. Nigeria as a people, how do they see the sanitation? What do they know about sanitation? Are they ready to implement it? Because occasionally, when you listen to people, they will always say sensitization, sensitization. What of those that have already known about this thing? Are they implementing it? Are you ready to come out in the morning, clean your environment every day? Because in the villages where they don't have big vehicles that will come and pack their waste, how do they do it? Who taught these old people in those days how to clean their environment? But in the city centers, it's not like that. It is very difficult. Somebody is driving, you are driving your vehicle, a big man, you are throwing things from your car, and we want a clean environment. Even when you put waste bin for people, they are not ready to use it. Some household, when they want to send somebody to go and dump waste, they send a child. Maybe the child will just go and dump the waste anyhow. At the city center, really, we are doing the work. We know that in Abuja here, let me use it as an example because that is where I work. We have health officers from Abuja Environmental Protection Board that go around for the purpose of abatement of nuisance. We don't charge money because he said that the responsibility is supposed to be for area council. What do they do? Doctor has said something. He said that people will go for the interest of we want to increase our IGR, that's internally generated revenue. You send people to give demand notices to people without doing the inspection. And even when you want to do the inspection, you charge money. We call it services rendered to the public. When we go from house to house inspection, we don't charge money from Abuja Environmental Protection Board. And if there is any problem to be solved, we continue with, appealing to you before the enforcement aspect of it. We will appeal with you for a long time, but some people don't understand it. If you have a problem now, you bring it to us. We want to solve it. We go and serve abatement notice, as he has said. We continue coming to you to appeal. Even meetings, we meet with neighborhood. Assuming this neighborhood, they have issue of sanitation, we meet with them to discuss it, just to see that we will get it right. It is only when people refuse to, adhere to instructions given, that is the time we go to court with them.
Do you extend these meetings to suburban areas? Like in Abuja, for instance, you go to Karo area where people are densely populated.
Yes, we have community sanitation we do. But we call it community-led sanitation. But we are the people that will go to the leaders of that community. Anybody that is leading the community, we meet with them, we discuss with them, we know their challenges. After inspection, then occasionally we discuss with them. Occasionally we fix the date for sanitation in such communities. But we also have an STDD. They also have a role to play in urban, suburban areas, apart from the area council that have something to do in those areas. So we also talk with them.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, let's not try to understate the environmental health challenge that we face in terms of sanitation. I mean, you see it in urban centers, you see it in suburban centers, refuse heaps, all over the place. We're talking a while ago, Kieran, in introducing this subject matter, that the prevalence of rats in our environment would quite clearly indicate the major challenge that we are facing with our level of cleanliness or otherwise in the country. How do we begin to overcome this? And we've also, on Good Morning Nigeria, discussed, this may not necessarily directly be the challenge with environmental health officers or health inspectors. When you go to restaurants or mama put, as it is called, or buka, which are words in the dictionary now, by the way, who supervises how, the environment in which they cook? Go to taco market now, behind the market, and you will see that it's a pigsty. And yet, people are selling food items that you and I are going to eat. Why are we? The same thing you find there, you will find in most other markets throughout the country. What just is wrong with us? Dr. Rigasa.
Yeah, what I would like to say is that, you see, part of the challenge, if you look at the way we are as a society, is that this duplication, as you mentioned, between government agencies is probably one of the major reasons that has confused citizens and business. If somebody wants to build a toilet, for example, or let me give you a typical example. If you visit any of our abattoirs, they use tires, to roast meat. But the question is, who is the most appropriate person to sanction those practitioners? That is a big question. In some states, the abattoirs are under the Ministry of Agriculture. So you are from environment, because most of the abattoirs are publicly owned. So how can you sanction a publicly owned, business, so to say? So some of these issues, are part of our challenges. And unless we come together, the federal government is supposed to give a clear guideline based on constitutional provision, that this is what federal government is expected to do. These are the responsibilities of states. These are the responsibilities of local government. And of course, these are the roles of citizens and businesses. That is how we move forward as a community, or as a nation.
No, but let's get this clear. I mean, do we expect the federal government to be involved in the evacuation of refuse?
No.
In daily cleanliness?
No.
Yeah, the federal government can say, for instance, look, a particular area has been designated or should not be designated as a dump site on account of leakages or seepages into the water table. But just what is happening at the local government level or at the state level? I mean, we don't see any of these things, playing out. Sometimes you find that, yes, occasionally the streets just get clean, and after a while, we are back again as if everywhere is a dump site. Doctor.
Yes, let me pick it from there, where he stopped. Now, you mentioned about the state of our restaurants, bukas, hotels, and all that. Now, first of all, it's not that the Constitution or the laws are actually empty in this regard. The national policy on food safety and hygiene made it very clear that the state Ministry of Health, is responsible for ensuring that all restaurants, all bukas, everywhere food is processed, is actually monitored, routinely inspected to ensure both personal hygiene and environmental hygiene. As a matter of fact, those who are food handlers are supposed to be screened twice a year to ensure that they are fit to handle food meant for public consumption. Actually, it's being done, particularly in FCT. I'm sure that most EHOs that are under public health department actually have areas in FCT where they routinely inspect. The challenge is that the number of officers available to do this inspection are grossly inadequate. So even when they have routine rosters and work plan to cover about maybe 200 establishments in their location, they're able to do up to 20 or 30 within that period, because the challenge of manpower is grossly inadequate. Now, coming to what you said about federal government coming down to actually, evacuate the wells and do all that. Again, it is clear, even in the law, that APB is responsible, particularly in the city centers, to make sure that these are done. But again, the officers who are also responsible for doing this, again, are also not adequate to do that. Oftentimes, even when neighborhoods complain about certain situations that should be addressed, and they're getting maybe 70 complaints within 1 week in APB, it's also difficult to also address it with the speed it requires. So I don't think that the law is actually not clear. It's that the individuals who implement these laws at the local government, at the state, are not clear. So, and even when they know, because the money is involved, they're not interested. So we still need to find a way of sitting down and making sure that, look, you will insist, you restrict yourself to the area you are supposed to be addressing. But most importantly, we need to address the staff challenge, the personnel challenge, because the environmental health officers that are available for public health department, for AEPB, for area councils, they are grossly inadequate for the work they are actually supposed to be doing. Because every day they're supposed to be in the field, monitoring premises, inspecting premises, making recommendations for approval, taking people to the magistrate courts who are refused to comply over time. We need to address the inadequacy of personnel if we must come out of this situation.
You see, from all your explanations, it's not yet clear to me who does what. Right, because when Dr. Andy Oka spoke a short while ago, he made specifically, he said, look, that he's of the federal, from a federal establishment. Right, and we're now saying that the federal government should not be concerned, about evacuation of refuse or even inspection of, hotels and markets, as the case may be. Now, what is your responsibility? Kate Obonna did point out that she didn't agree with the fact that there are clashes of responsibilities among the institutions. She said perhaps in the course of the program she'll be able to explain that. But for you, what is your responsibility? What is your contribution to this sanitation in Nigeria?
Actually, we regulate the environmental health officers that is distributed all over the country. We also regulate what we call environmental health service providers, like those people that are supposed to be engaged in carrying the waste, cleaning everywhere. But what I want to point out at this juncture is that even what we call environmental sanitation has been politicized, in the sense that there are round pegs today in a square hole. People prefer engaging people that are not trained, that are not professionals, that are politically inclined, than using the professionals. I have experienced this in this FCT. Sometimes the environmental health officers, the few that are available now, will go to do their work. Somebody will call them. Do you know? You will tell them, do you know whom I am? Some of them, sometimes they don't even allow them, depending on how big you are. The next thing is that they will call the chairman, they will say, those are the people that voted for us, leave them alone. This is a matter of life and death. Another thing is that in this FCT, I discovered in one of the area councils that somebody was engaged. He is not registered with us. He is not a professional, just like a businessman, going around collecting money from banks, collecting money everywhere. They can come to you. He said that you did not fumigate your place, or you did not carry your waste, 200,000. And if they will threaten the bank, and the bank will just pay because they don't want to be closer. Then somebody took them to court. First of all, arrested our people. We went there. Small time, police started talking from both of the mouths, sorry to say that. And after that, even the lawyer, they started being funny. I left that place. I said, okay, we are going to go to court. The man came to my office. And when he came to my office, he brought something, Nigeria. I said, that is not the issue. The issue is that you should do it the right way. He said, let me tell you, there's money in this business. There's money in this business. He brought good money. I said, no. Do you know that the man told me that he's supposed to be a governor, but this is just what they use and compensate him, therefore he can go to the environment and do anything he likes. Those are the things. But that has been politicized, has been in fact bastardized. So if we want to get it right, let it get it right from the constitution. Since we know that the local government is not capable of doing that, since we know that the states are doing it, go to the states, they pay huge money to all these contractors that are supposed to evacuate. But every day, anywhere, if a refuse is not, or waste is not collected in two days, you see it piling. Supposed to be collected, the highest day you can say is 3 days. You evacuate in a particular form. But you see this waste overflowing, scattering everywhere, scavengers, animal and human beings scattering it. And you pay millions to these people that they are doing it. Nothing is being done. So we should get it right from our constitution. If the local government can no longer, if the state can no longer, the federal can amend the law so that we can have environmental health officers, just like police, that can work from federal to state in a synergy. Then we can be connecting with the...
All right, now, let's clarify this.
Okay.
I mean, you raised a number of points, Kirian. I mean, that's from what Dr. Andy Uka is talking about, the politicization of sanitation in the country. I mean, there's one former governor now who couldn't get renominated because one of the issues against him was that, you know, he was not spreading the gravy around for environmental sanitation of this very populous state that he was governor of. Tell us, Environmental Health Registration Council, obviously you license and regulate environmental health officers or health workers. About how many are you in the country, and what is the likely spread around in the states?
Okay. Actually, for now, we are a little bit above 10,000 registered. And these 10,000 include those that have passed on, those that have retired, and those that are...
Those who are alive.
No, what I'm saying is that that nominal role is just inclusive, it's just this. But what I'm saying is that majority of them are not employed.
Fine, okay. Just hold on a second, please. Yes. You've said you are about 10,000 nominal, probably about 8,000 or so active.
Right.
Who are members of your council or whom you have licensed? Now, who are the employers of these environmental health officers?
Local government, state government, and the federal. And unfortunately for our work, you cannot go as individual to implement it. Just like, not like police, you can go there and do your work. But here now you must have a jurisdiction to perform your duty. So
how do you mean?
The jurisdiction mean is that in a state, you must be employed, either like this FCT, either by the area council or the FCT to perform your duty. So you cannot do
so. Okay, go ahead. No, I just wanted Dr. Obenatu to also come in here in terms of the engagement, because the council is like, I mean, any registration council, for instance.
Yes, registering professionals.
You register a professional, how you don't get your job, it becomes your responsibility. So what happens, what do we know, rather, about the employment of these persons who have been certified as environmental health officers? Now, the question is going to Remigius.
Okay. Just like I said before, the health officers are actually supposed to perform their function under the medical officer of health of the state. It means that the government, in fact, they are members of the state of government health departments. So they work with the government departments to now carry out their functions under the supervision of the medical officer of health. In FCT, they are employed either in FCT Public Health Department, where they work in the Division of Environmental and Occupational Health, or they're employed in Abuja Environmental Protection Board, where they also, because before we were talking about the duties, Environmental Sanitation Board are responsible for evacuation of waste in the FCT. So they also employ them to ensure that people comply to the standards for waste evacuation. Now, in our own department, Public Health, we have about 21 of them employed currently, but the requirement is actually over 10 times that number currently, because we're supposed to actually assign them to various districts of the FCT to carry out their functions on routine basis. And that's why I said before that without adequate number of these environmental health officers, it's difficult for us to carry out the routine inspections and detect the nuisance we're talking about and be able to address them properly.
You know, Nigerians from this program will be learning a lot of things. You know, the politicization that Dr. Andy Uka, mentioned is quite key to this conversation. You know, because we have environmental health officers who have graduated without getting a job. Meanwhile, the job of cleaning a state is contracted to a politician who does not even understand what that is all about, and who recruits people who are not professionals to do the job. That is the crux of the matter. And Kate, I'm coming back to you again, because you said you didn't agree, with one assertion, that the institutions are not giving specified assignment, with respect to environmental cleanliness. So do further explanation. Let us understand.
Yes, why I say so is that anywhere you are, you know your responsibility. As I'm working with Abuja Environmental Protection Board, I have laid down activities that I should do. And likewise, as doctor you work with public health, there are activities that you do. But all of us are health officers. Whether I'm working in area council, Abuja Environmental Protection Board, or in public health, we are all health officers. We pass through the same school, study the same course. So when we go out for, let's say, house-to-house inspection, that's what we call it, and along the line on the street, I see maybe somebody that is cooking food, I'm not expected to pass because I'm a health officer. But what we don't do is to tell the person to come to Abuja Environmental Protection Board for your medical certificate of fitness, because it is not our duty. But we have the right to look at the person, educate the person, tell the person to go to public health and go to the hospital and collect your medical certificate of fitness.
But whose duty is that?
It's public health.
Public health.
Yes.
Okay.
Medical certificate of fitness is their duty. So our own is to check the environment, check how the person is handling the thing, educate the person on the things to do. Because if you are handling food, there are certain things you have even PPE that you put on while you are handling the food. We are talking about standard places. And we know that there are some people that are selling on the street just like that. That when they see you, they run. When you go, they come out. That one is a different case. But we are talking about a standard place. So I don't think it is wise that because I am from Abuja Environmental Protection Board, a health officer from there, that somebody will call somebody from public health and say that somebody from Abuja Environmental Protection Board is now in this restaurant, is asking us that we should go for medical certificate of fitness. Occasionally, some people misunderstand. Because we don't have a hospital where we can say, okay, come, let them take your blood sample and go for medical certificate of fitness. We only send them to hospital. So what I'm saying is that we're supposed to complement what we do, because we are all health officers. We are not supposed to say, okay, I don't want to see you in this place.
Okay, you're talking about conflict of jurisdiction.
Yes.
Dr. Remigius, we'll come to you. Note what she has said so you can respond. Our chief aim is to see, look, how do we ensure that the various structures and framework that we have for public health issues, particularly environmental sanitation, that those things get to work properly. But the politicization of sanitation, which Dr. Andy Uka has raised, is something that I want to ask Dr. Yusuf Rigasa to also speak about. He mentioned it, in passing, to say, look, the environmental sanitation now is being seen as compensation for some politicians. Yeah. And they tell him that, look, there is big money in this thing. I contested, I was a governorship aspirant, not even a contestant now, a candidate aspirant, so I didn't win, so they have asked me to be doing this, don't disturb my business. Or otherwise, they go to harass people, and they say, no, those people voted for us, don't harass them. You are a former general manager of the Kaduna State Environmental Protection Agency. How rife is politicization of sanitation?
Well, I think waste and sanitation, the politicization is not something new. We've politicized virtually everything in the country. So it's not strange that even aspect of waste and sanitation has been politicized. I think our challenge is perhaps maybe the politicians have not been properly educated, to the level where they can see this as an essential service. If you look at all the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, some of these key performance indicators are there, but our leaders at the top are not very much conscious of this. I believe that the politicization is probably not very wrong with it. It's just that we've not been able to get the politics and the environment right. If you go into Google, you'll see that environmental politics is now a well-recognized aspect of intellectual discourse. And there's even a journal that is being published under that particular name.
Dr. Regasa,
so I believe...
Were you compensated when you were the general manager of...
No, for your information, I have my PhD in waste management and sanitation, so I look at myself as a professional. But I do believe that even as a professional, as you can see, my colleagues, we have to work with politicians. So you cannot say that politics... we cannot keep politics out of our job. As a professional,
what we are saying,
you need a political platform.
Yeah, no, Dr. Regasa, let's get this clear. I mean, if somebody will tell you that a political scientist will say, oh, there's politics in everything, even in the family structure. Well, what are the ends of politics? And that's precisely what we are discussing here. So when you say, and Kirian outlined it after Dr. Oka gave his example, to say, here is a compensatory jurisdiction that has been given for waste management. And the man comes, instead of hiring properly registered environmental health officers, he just goes into the streets or, gets his own packers or dumpers and, he gets it done whenever he likes, and occasionally he imposes his own will on the people. Yes. How do we streamline this?
You see,
we can't just have wide politics.
Where you have enforceable standards, anybody that gets the job must follow due process. I think that is the weakness of some of us, the professionals in the job. We know what the law says, we know the standards. So even if you are given the job and we feel that you are not a professional, we will let down the process for you. Look, for you to be able to achieve the objective of this particular contract, this is the process that you have to follow. And I think no politician will look away. If you stand your ground that these are the standards that need to be followed, most politicians, they will reason with you.
Well, at the very period you were commissioner of environment, general manager, in Kaduna State, the Kaduna must have been a lucky state at that time, because they employed a professional. Yes. But the preponderance of non-professionals that are handling environmental offices in states, just, you can just imagine, recall what happened during the last election, that cleaning Lagos, played a key role, on the issue of Ambode and the rest of them there in APC in Lagos. And in other states, it's like that. So when you politicize a very sensitive area, like environmental cleanliness. Hold on, Mr. Regasa. We all live in the same society. Yes. We know what is happening. Yes. I read political science, and I studied African politics. So what we're talking about here is, if there are no deliverables from politicians, then you have done nothing. If you politicize the environment, and we have filthy environment, the politics of it doesn't make sense any longer. So what Kingsley was actually harping on is the fact that when you use such highly prioritized area, like we experienced in the 80s, now give it to a politician who is there to be compensated, he will never deliver. The deliverables from politics will not come. So that is what we're talking about. Now, let's go to, let me just once more. You may have opportunity of coming back again, but this issue of... let
me just come to this politics of thing. Now, see, this is about health we're talking about. Remember that if you politicize it, they are looking for their money, their investment. They're not thinking about people's health.
Exactly.
And again, the law provides that you use environmental health officers for enforcing the Public Health Act, not that you use contractors and consultants. As a matter of fact, I've come across before, when Amak was trying to also do food and life tests with public health, I came across a young man who never read anything health related under a mango tree, field certificate of fitness for people. They collect their money, they fill certificate that have done the test and submit to them. Meanwhile, a lot of people that give the certificate are not fit to handle food. They have infections that will be transmitted. That's right. So it's important we get it clear that issues of health should not actually be given to such contractors. And the law provides that it is only environmental health officers that are allowed to enforce the Public Health Act. It should be very clear. Now let me come into what Kate said before about AEPB, AMAG carrying out their routine activities and then being able to interfere, not only interfere per se, but being able to contribute to other areas of health, even though it's not within their jurisdiction. It can also cause a problem. In as much as you are well informed about that you might go to probably look at the environmental waste disposal, and you notice that this is a hotel, you might just ask other question, are your food handlers medically certified to handle food? And they tell you, no, you refer to public health. Others will begin to see it as their function and begin to get a certificate of fitness. So I think it's important that we really be able to find out what areas of Public Health Act we're implementing and go strictly to that. If you notice before, in fact, at a mark level, we had series of meetings with them before they understood and agreed that medical certificate of fitness and testing of food and life should be for public health. While they can walk in, do their inspection they want to do, and then probably give any notice, notice they want to give. But right now, they know within a mark that you do not go and begin to ask where is the certificate of fitness for food handlers test. People are going to abuse it and begin to also think it's their role and begin to provide it. That's what I think.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Andiuka, I know that you have a lot more to say. But let's also look at another aspect. We're talking about environmental sanitation. The crisis is coming, and we better prepare for it. Some countries are already responding to it. Yes, we have our personal habits that are unhelpful. I'm here talking about plastic pollution. There is no public drainage, where there are public drains you find all over the place, that you don't find clogged with plastics, either pure water sachet, this pure water sachet, shopping bags, and so on and so forth. In most major cities, when you look at the gutters, this is the dry season now when those things are supposed to be cleared. Those political contractors who are supposed to do those things are not doing it now. Until the rains come and everybody will put their hands on their head and say, oh, flooding, oh, flooding, oh, flooding, oh. Whose business is this?
It is the same business with what we are saying. Is part of waste management. The actual thing is that there was a time I was called for discussion like this. I suggested, because other African countries have even banned the use of plastic, I say we can introduce the short term, the middle term, and the long term of eradicating plastic in our society. So people was a kind of, how can this do you do? No, it's a gradual, because when this ferry road closes, another one will come. It's because we are used to this. We cannot think about another thing. This thing has been, is now just a kind of monster in our environment. Because this a kind of plastic now, some of them can stay up to 200 years without decaying. Some of them can stay more than that. So why are we misusing this thing? If there is a way we can say, okay, let us go gradual eradication of that or stoppage, it will help us because we have abused it. People produce. There is no way we say, okay, like a bottle of Coke or something like that, let it go back to the sender, that's the producers. We should, it's a problem, and we need to do something about it. In fact, it's the same thing as waste management.
What Dr. Tuka is saying is apt, because these materials are non-degradable.
Yes.
They can stay 200 years as a
yes,
and again, it is even getting to the farmland, because farmers go to farmlands with the sachet water, and other plastics, they drop them there as well. And if they are non-degradable, it may begin to affect our agriculture in due course, in the next decade.
Now.
You're right, and as he pointed out again, so many countries have banned use of plastic bags, for instance. In fact, the one that is most most common is the black plastic bags to wrap pepper for you in the market. All those markets across Nigeria. It is just there. It's okay. Well, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and we thank you for staying with us up to this moment. And we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we shall be concluding this edition of the program. Don't go away.
You're welcome back here. I still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We have a number of tweets that have come in from our viewers, and Kira and I will go through those tweets and then we'll turn to our guests. But Amasi Haruna Adamu, there should be sensitization of the populace on how to make our environment much more clean, and proper communication through the government, traditional institutions, and community or associations would help.
All right, Mike Anyako says, sanitary and health inspectors played vital role in the hygienic nature of our environment yesteryears. This helped in the prevention of diseases, but all nosedived as many governments paid less attention to these important officers.
Dada Stephen, more health inspectors should be employed by the local governments, and enforcement of the laws is also necessary.
Law Alpha C. Are there still sanitary and health inspectors? The ones that are rarely seen are after their personal comfort and interest at the expense of being genuinely concerned about the health of the citizens in the community.
Oladimeji Morufo, employ more sanitary inspectors, train and retrain them for efficiency.
Chris Simeon, there are increasing number of air and waterborne diseases in our communities nowadays. This is because the masses are not sensitized by the sanitary and health inspectors on the essence of a living hygienic life.
Dele Jack Solomon, no matter the nutritional value of food, its method of preparation could make it detrimental to human health. Therefore, we urge the 3 tiers of government to recruit more environmental health professionals to enforce environmental laws and promote healthy living.
Now, Joe Erahome, coloring in plant or in palm oil, washing powder in cassava, paracetamol in boiling meat, sugar syrup in honey, machine processed egusi bleached with soap to look like hand processed, soot fem shakabola, and the insecticide on dried fish. Sanitary inspectors have huge job to do.
Shani Michael Omakoji has this tweet. Ideally, the role is to ensure a clean sanitary system. But it's disheartening that these officers have turned themselves to tax officers as they go about in the villages collecting penalty money from gagos and madakis without necessarily inspecting.
Omobola Hababs, the sanitary inspectors in those days ensured that households were up and doing in ensuring a cleaner environment. They would go on to check soakaways, gutters for easy flow of water, just so as to prevent flood. But today, this agency seems in coma. Time to bring them back is now.
Festus Akimboyewa, truth is there is no proper sanitation and hygiene in all the states of the Federation because of lack of political will to enforce it. That's why sanitary and health inspectors are no longer what they used to be. Time government at all levels saw sanitation as a basic necessity and effectively addressed it.
Now, finally, Comrade Alaji Ngala, health is wealth. Federal government should try and embark on weekly sanitation nationwide, which will reduce deadly diseases. During President Buhari's military regime, we call those type of sanitation Ojokojo. Well, we're not in the military regime this time around, and again, it's not for the federal government to do that. We have state governments, local governments, and of course, traditional rulers, along the line.
To enforce that, no doubt about it. I mean, the bottom line is cleanliness is next to godliness. Yeah. So why are we, as it were, in such a filthy environment? I just wanted to ask Kate Obona this question, the environmental health officer. We've had, of course, also to talk about WASH and the drive to eradicate open defecation. Here in Abuja, in the city, you can see places where there are large numbers of people gather in the morning. What is it that the health and environmental officers do? When you go to a place like near Federal Ministry of Works in Mabushi, and you see where these daily paid laborers are gathered, the so-called Kwangala people, who are used for daily jobs, where do they relieve themselves? Who are those health inspectors that will go there to say, look, don't do this? You go to the major locations around the FCT, as you would find in other states or other state capitals in the Federation. Where are the health and sanitary inspectors?
You even see them on the road in this Abuja.
Precisely.
If Abuja, you see somebody stooping somewhere, doing something along the road of Abuja.
That's right. Where are the health officials?
Anyway, the issue of open defecation is here in FCT. Nobody will say it is not here. But really, we are also working on it because there is a committee set up by the minister to look into this open defecation. Seeing that we are now, we want to take the position of India in Nigeria. That committee is made up of different departments. Because when we talk about bringing up a public confidence in FCT, Abuja Environmental Protection Board is not the only department that is responsible, because there are people in charge of land, people in charge of the business, people in charge of different departments that have to come together. That is why the minister set up that committee to look into open defecation. How can we provide more toilets in FCT?
As the committee started work?
The committee has started the work. The UPRS were able to get places where you can place public toilets without demolishing it tomorrow, because we see a place where many people are, that place may be for another thing, for another purpose. So that is why those people are very important. They have to check those land to ensure that once that public convenience is provided there, tomorrow you will not go and demolish it. So that is it. That committee has done their work. It is the implementation level that we are now. So for the people that are gathering in different places, the Abuja Environmental Protection Board, we use the enforcement occasionally, especially these people that are doing roadside work. They will carry their shovel, digger, and everything. They will sit by the roadside waiting for somebody to come and take them for a day's job. We don't allow them to accumulate, to stay, many of them to stay. Every day we go around to remove them. But you know that it is not, it's just like when you come, they will run.
No. No, I'm sorry. Let's face this. They are not vagrants. They are daily paid laborers.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm sorry. It is not your business to go and remove them. What we are saying is when they want to relieve themselves, where and how do they do it, and what is your role in ensuring the maintenance of sound public health while they are doing what they are doing? They are not criminals. So why are you removing them?
Yes, our role there. No, occasionally, even in your home, that's what we call population control. Even in our homes, if you allow many people to come to your house, you will see the difference. But when you have few people in a particular place, it's a different case. So in public health, population matters. When you allow many people to converge in a place, it is not good. That's how. What we are saying is that, like in those areas, these are the places that we are mapping out that we will put public confidence in those areas, so that
you are saying that if people come to my home and then if I see the population grow, are you suggesting that I have 27 children and still counting?
No. I'm not suggesting that, sir. I'm not suggesting that.
Madam, thank you. We will return to you. You know, what is good about what is said now is that it's now at the implementation level, right?
Yes.
And the FCT owns all the land in Abuja here.
Yes.
So locating places where you can site public toilets should not be a problem, you know, to them. The land is everywhere here and they are the owners. So as soon as that is implemented, that is better for Nigerians, especially those who are living in Abuja. Dr. Rigasa, you were about to say something, you know, when Kingsley raised the issue of politicizing the environmental cleanliness in this country, and we also like you to add by looking at what can be done, or how can we return to what it used to be? What is the template? You know, having gotten experience, you know, in the past, how can we go further? How can we change the narrative now with respect to environmental, cleanliness? Yes.
Thank you very much. I think what I would like to start with this time around is to clearly state that waste management and sanitation is the responsibility of everybody. It is an inclusive process. The moment you take the citizens out, it will not work well. The moment you take the local government out, it will not work well. The moment you take the community out, it will equally not work well. And just like you were asking about those people in public places, the moment you take businesses out, because there are places, most of the private toilets that are actually working in this country were built by small businesses. If you go to any motor park, the toilets that you would like to use are built by businesses. So what am I trying to say is this, in essence, that first we need to integrate waste and sanitation into our curricula, right from kindergarten through nursery, primary, secondary, and tertiary, education. We must be able to evolve what I call national, sanitary habits. This is the way you go to the toilet, and this is the way you should poo. This is the way a standard toilet should look like. This has to be driven by the federal government because they own everybody. But then the rules, right from federal government down to citizens, has to be defined by the federal government. You can clearly see sometimes when you ask questions, because the people that we have here are employed by different tiers of government, with different responsibilities. Where they have overlaps, then you begin to have challenges. So responsibilities must be very, clearly defined if we want the system to actually work. That is the way forward. And part of the challenge that we have when I was in office was that at national level, we don't have what we call a waste management strategy. You raised the issue of plastics. Now, the nations that have succeeded, they have been able to sit down to say, okay, this is how we are going to manage waste. And these are the responsibilities of each and every component of the society. For the plastic, you as a person, you can easily say no. If you go to Hedge Medics, for example, if they give you 10 bags, you can reject. I do reject. I say, put everything in one bag or put everything in 2 bags. That is where, minimizing or saying no to plastics actually begins to work. And then maybe at the collection level, you need to say, okay, there should be segregation. And then government and businesses will now have to work together and provide recycling facilities. So that at the end of the day, what he was trying to say initially is producer responsibility. If Coke is packaging Coca-Cola in a plastic bottle, then there must be, producer responsibility. It's either they, raise the price a bit so that at least government will have some money to invest in recycling facility, or there has to be a collection system where all these plastics will be collected and be sent back to Coca-Cola so that they take, the responsibility of recycling it back. So that is how things, are supposed to work. The federal government has to drive the process and has to define the responsibility of each and every stakeholder.
Yeah, let's clarify that further, Dr. Rigas, and that's why I'm bringing in Remigius. Remigius, how do we streamline the functions and roles of the various agencies and tiers of government with regard to sanitation in the first instance? That's one leg. How do we streamline that? The other leg that will arise from that question would be, how then do we de-escalate the emphasis on IGR and focus and refocus on public health as the key goal of sanitation?
Okay, thank you very much. Just like I said, the law has made provision for which arm of the government should respond. There are areas where there's overlap. So we need to sit down with the various department agencies and let them understand where their responsibilities end and where the next one begins. And written out as a document, each of them will sign and give it to them. There was an attempt in the past by the Minister of FCT, when Madam El-Rufai was Minister of FCT, to actually have that meeting. But the outcome of that meeting was actually not disseminated to the relevant department agencies. So even when we raise it and show the AMAC, they say they're not part of it, they're not aware of it. The National Council of Health has also met in several meetings to say, these are what the role should be. Some agency will tell you, no, this is not a law. It is a policy or whatever from the government that cannot be. So the summary is that the government agency responsible for harmonizing these mandates should sit down with the area council, with the state, to actually clarify again and have a written document on whose mandate is waste collection, whose mandate is inspection of hotel and food establishment, issue certificate of fitness, whose mandate is house-to-house inspection in the communities. It should be very clear.
So now, who drives this process? Because Rigasa is saying federal government. Assuming it's even the federal government, which of the ministries is Ministry of Health will be an obvious candidate? What about the Ministry of Environment? Because say, under the state governments, environmental sanitation is basically, I believe, under Ministry of Environment. Yes. So how then do you streamline this?
I think at the federal level, it has been streamlined. Is at the state level that interpretation becomes very difficult. Federal government, Federal Ministry of Health has several policies on food hygiene and safety, on environmental sanitation. At the Federal Ministry of Environment, they're also very clear who does what. But the states have obviously, for maybe the political aspect we're talking about, refused to understand. So I think at the state level, at the FCT level, the minister may need to set up another committee to read out what provisions are in the policies and in the laws, and each person now agrees. Because I think that at AMAC level, initially there was a very serious loggerhead. But when we sat down in meetings and explained and brought documents and explained, at a point, the leadership of AMAC accepted that, yes, they now know that anything that had to do with inspection of hotels, restaurants, food places is not AMAC. And they wrote a letter to public health saying anybody you find in the field saying he's doing food and last test or inspection of hotels in the name of AMAC, apprehend the person and hand the person over to the police. It's not from our mark. We have a letter like that saying that. So we have to do such things at the area council. Let the area council management be sensitized. Then through series of meetings, they'll be able to come up with a document to say, look, we understand our mandate now. This is where it's supposed to be. But it might be actually, it should be led by a minister or a committee from the minister to do that.
Right. I think the issue of environment is on the concurrent list. And that meaning that both state or federal government should be able to address it according to how it's been streamlined, in terms of your explanation. Yeah. So I would like to come to Dr. Oka. Dr. Oka, you shared an experience, which of course touched me as an individual, because these are the crux of the matter. When policies are initiated and it comes to implementation, and when it fails, it hurts, especially when it has to do with public health that we're discussing this morning. Now, you have churned out a number of environmental health officers, across the nation. As we are concluding this edition of the program, let us know the feedback you're getting from some of your members who are attached to either a ministry or a parastatal in states and federal government.
Yes, like we said, doctor has emphasized much of the scarcity of environmental health officers. Those that are working, in under the environment that is not conducive. I said it earlier that instead of providing like motto, I think ABB is here. How many vehicles are they given for premises inspection? What the feedback we are getting is that they are not being taken care of logistically or otherwise. And some of the areas, they are getting extinct because they are not employing again. So, like what I said, Nigeria need about 25 to 30,000 environmental health officers working in the field. Because the WHO said an environmental health officer supposed to take care of 8,000 people. That is a developed country where they have arrested their environment. But now we are struggling with our environment. We need like an environmental health officer to about 5,000 or 4,000 people. But if we should do that, we are looking at 30 to 40,000 environmental health officers working in the society of 200 million people. So how many, what we are trying to do now is to know, out of these 10,000 people I mentioned, how many people are working.
Okay.
So we are doing that right now.
Okay,
So,
Dr. Oka, thank you very much. Kate Ogbonna, I just wanted to ask you this. Do your officers also inspect buildings, premises in the FCT to see the state of their washrooms, for instance?
Yes, we do. But
have you closed down any of those offices if you found that there was violation or there was a nuisance?
We do, because we start with what we discussed, that it's a process. Because if you go to somebody's house, it is not the time you just take the person to court. Because there is time for you, there is that gap you will give to discuss with the person, to serve abatement notice. Maybe the person...
Have you been to restrooms in ministries and establishments in this country?
Yes. We even did it together.
What did you find? Yeah, what did you find?
Okay. We observed that the place is really dilapidated. That is the truth.
Thank you.
No water supply.
No water supply.
Thank you.
Even some places, they lock some places.
The sanitation was very poor, and they were actually closed down. Right now, enforcement team is actually going around. Those who have visited in the past, given abatement notice, who have refused to do anything, then they feed now, trying to also close down such places until they comply with those requirements by law.
Okay, all right. Madam and gentlemen, would like to thank you for being part of this conversation. I mean, we're all concerned about the sanitation in the country, and more particularly the public health implication of a filthy environment on account of the number of diseases that we are seeing. Dr. Andy Uka, Director, Registration, Ethics and Senate enforcement of the Environmental Health Officer Registration Council. We thank you for being part of our discussion this morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciation also to Dr. Yusuf Rigasa, Waste and Sanitation expert, who is also former General Manager of the Kaduna Environmental Management Board. Thank you for being part of our discussion this morning. Kate Ogbona, she's Head of Department, Environmental Health and Safety, Abuja Environmental Board. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
I should also add that your people are very active during the rainy season when corn is available. You know, you see them in their combi buses, you know, when they are running after or chasing these corn sellers. You know, they are usually very active then. So, but
we are always active. We are always active. Even now, we are active.
Okay, all right. Dr. Remigius Obinatu, Head Environmental and Occupational Health Division at Public Health Department in the FCT administration. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, that's how we are concluding this edition of the program. We thank you for watching, and please join us again on Monday when we'll be back.
Kirian, this is a weekend, so we have to talk about sports stories. So let's get into our sports segment before we sign off.
Okay.
Yes, All right, so let's take some sports stories now.